A deadly development in a violent interaction with Toronto police.
A 16-year-old boy shot in an exchange of gunfire dies in hospital. Tonight, new details on the now fatal traffic stop in North York. Good evening. The province's Special Investigations Unit says the teen was one of 6 people in a vehicle pulled over by police Sunday night. They're now trying to determine what led to the gunfire and whether the use of force by police was justified. CTV's Mike Walker joins us live from the scene near Bathurst and Shepherd with this latest development. Mike.
Well, Michelle and Nathan, the SIU says its investigation is still in the early stages, but its investigators have reviewed body camera footage that may provide some insight in what led to the exchange of gunfire. A 16-year-old Toronto boy shot by police in an exchange of gunfire during a traffic stop has died in hospital, the Special Investigations Unit confirms. This happened shortly before 11 Sunday night near Bathurst and Shepherd. Security video obtained by CTV News appears to show one officer talking with the driver behind the wheel of the Infiniti, and a second officer is standing on the other side of the car. Then the officer on the driver's side suddenly backs away and appears to start firing at the car. The other officer then opens fire at the back. The SIU says it has reviewed body camera footage and that the teen who died shot at police and then officers discharged their firearms at him. The SIU also confirms the 16-year-old was not the driver and that a firearm was recovered at the scene. Its investigators are now trying to determine if the use of force by police was justified. CTV's public safety analyst Chris Lewis says these are difficult and in-depth investigations.
Looking at the circumstances, Mike, as to why the officers drew their firearms. So what occurred there? What did they know? What did they hear? What did they see? What did other witnesses in the area see and hear? Some of the people in the vehicle may talk, some may not. And then what evidence is in the vehicle?
Dashcam video posted to social media appears to show a red vehicle pass through the intersection at Bathurst and Shepherd on a yellow light. Police are seen in the left turning lane and then pull a U-turn. Moments later, they pull the vehicle over. SIU investigators say the vehicle involved in this incident was initially pulled over for missing a front license plate and that 6 people were inside. Toronto police confirm 5 people who were in the vehicle were arrested, including a 20-year-old man and 18-year-old woman, both from Toronto, as well as 3 girls between 16 and 17 years old. They are facing firearm-related charges. One youth is also charged with failing to comply with a release order. The SIU has not released the name of the teen who died. The Toronto Police Association says it can't comment given the ongoing SIU investigation, but the president released a statement that reads in part that every use of force incident is an interaction between human beings and they deeply impact our members, adding that no officer wants to use force. In the face of danger, they make split-second decisions to protect themselves and others. The SIU says it's currently reviewing video evidence and is also in the process of interviewing 2 witness officers to this incident. Reporting live, I'm Mike Walker. Michelle and Nathan, back to you.
Thank you, Mike. To another developing story tonight and a roadblock in the Ford government's plans to get rid of some bike lanes in Toronto.
A judge has granted an injunction that prevents the bike lanes on Bloor, Yonge and University from being removed, at least for now. CTV's Janice Golding joins us live with the story. Janice.
Hi, well, the bike lanes here along University aren't going anywhere anytime soon, despite a promise from the province last year that they'd be tearing them out. Today, the Ontario Superior Court ruled that they would be putting in place an injunction that would put pause to the Ford government's plans to remove bike lanes along 3 major corridors: Bloor Street, Yonge Street, and University Avenue. The injunction will last until a judge makes a decision on a charter challenge against the removals, meaning it might not be permitted at all. Now, last year, the province gave itself permission to remove 19 kilometers of bike lanes over the city's objections, saying it would reduce traffic congestion. But bike lane advocates challenged that decision, saying it would violate this charter's guarantee to life and security of the person. An injunction is only granted when a judge decides the issue is serious and it could cause the applicants irreparable harm. Today, Judge Paul Chabas wrote that he had concerns about whether the removal of the targeted bike lanes will serve the public good, adding that there was little evidence doing so would improve traffic congestion, while cyclist safety could be impacted. Here's reaction from Michael Longfield from Cycle Toronto.
Not every trip is bikeable and not every person is going to choose to ride a bike. But if you have a network of safe and protected bike lanes, like the bike lanes on Bloor University and Yonge Street, that gives people more transportation options to get around. Toronto's traffic issues are obviously real, but they're also not dissimilar to what other major North American cities are facing, like New York, Montreal, and Vancouver. And all those cities have networks of protected bike lanes.
So you've just heard from one of the applicants. Now here is a response from the Transportation Minister's office in which they say, we were elected with a clear mandate to get people out of traffic by restoring driving lanes to keep some of our busiest roads moving. We intend to respect the court's decision. We will continue with the design work necessary to begin removals as soon as possible, should the decision uphold the legislation. Meanwhile, the mayor's office just issued a statement saying bike lanes keep people safe and that city councillors voted to formally oppose the province's plans to override the city's authority and remove bike lanes. That's it from us here outside the Ontario Superior Court. Now back to Michelle.
Thank you, Janice. Still ahead on CTV News, 5 former World Junior hockey players accused of sexual assault converge in a London, Ontario courtroom as their high-profile trial gets underway. We'll tell you what happened in court. But first to the tributes pouring in from around the world for the late Pope Francis. We now know the funeral will be held on Saturday.
The pontiff is now lying in state in an open coffin inside the chapel of the papal residence, and the faithful have already started to gather in Rome. CTV's Genevieve Beauchemin reports.
A glimpse of the people's Pope Francis lying in state here in the chapel at Casa Santa Marta, where he lived simply and passed away. Vatican employees and those closest to the pontiff were first to pay tribute. Among them, Vatican analyst Gerard O'Connell.
After more than 20 years, knowing him as a friend, to know now he's no longer a friend on earth, he's a friend in heaven.
The Vatican has released some of the details of the Pope's final hours. He rested in the afternoon, had an early dinner. He thanked his health assistant for granting him his wish to ride through St. Peter's Square. And then, in the early morning hours Monday, he suddenly passed away. Hundreds of thousands are expected to pay their respects in accordance with the age-old rituals and traditions of the Catholic Church. In the crowd today, a group from Canada, from the Holy Spirit Parish in Stittsville, Ontario.
The world lost quite a guy. I mean, he was, always for the poor.
They had planned to be here for the church's Jubilee celebrations, but are now focusing their pilgrimage on the Pope.
We hope to be here tomorrow, line up early and be able to pay our respects to someone we admired and loved.
Cardinals from around the globe have been called to Rome and held a first meeting to lay out the timeline for the ceremonies. The Pope's body will be moved to St. Peter's Basilica for the public viewing that will last 3 days. The funeral will be held Saturday.
He simplified the ceremony to say, let's make it like any ordinary Christian.
A procession will then take the Pope's body to St. Mary Major for burial in a simple wooden coffin in accordance with the Pope's final wishes, near an icon of the Virgin Mary he admired in a basilica where he often prayed.
So many here say they hope to take part in at least some of those ceremonies to show just how much they admired the Pope. Genevieve Beauchemin, CTV News, Vatican City.
Canada's newest cardinal, who was appointed by Pope Francis, led prayers in honor of the late pontiff at St. Michael's Cathedral this afternoon.
He is also one of 2 cardinals from Toronto who will play a role in choosing the next pope. CTV's Scott Lightfoot joins us live with more on the local tributes. Scott.
Michelle, special prayers were offered here at St. Michael's Cathedral this afternoon during afternoon mass, very similar to what was done in churches and cathedrals across the world as millions of Catholics continue to mourn the loss of their Holy Father. Inside St. Michael's Cathedral this afternoon.
It is a day of mourning, a day of sadness, but in the Easter octave and in this holy year, it is a day of hope and day also of thanksgiving to God.
Prayers of remembrance for the late pontiff. Hundreds gathered for a midday mass for the repose of the soul of Pope Francis.
I think he'll be remembered as a great man, a man of courage. He stood up to a lot of people in the church who probably weren't happy about everything he was doing. And I think he took chances, and he stood up for those who were greatly in need, and I think that's really important.
For millions, Francis was the father of their faith.
I can attest to a great man. He had a great attentiveness to the person in front of him.
But for the Archbishop of Toronto, he was also a cherished supporter. Frank, Cardinal Leo, last spoke to Pope Francis in December, when the Pope elevated Leo to the position of cardinal.
He always was very much concerned with what was happening in Canada. He was concerned, and he knew the issues, and were able to speak frankly, and he asked questions. Truly caring person.
Now Leo, as well as Toronto's Archbishop Emeritus, will head for Rome, first to participate in the funeral for Pope Francis, and then to gather with fellow cardinals to begin the solemn process of choosing the Pope's replacement.
And Cardinal Leo didn't want to talk about the conclave or any of his thoughts on who might lead the church next. Instead, he wanted to keep the focus on Pope Francis. Cardinal Leo and the Archbishop Emeritus, Cardinal Collins, will be leaving tomorrow for Rome. Before they go, there will be another service here tonight at 7:30, a service of prayers in honor of Pope Francis. Reporting live outside St. Michael's Cathedral, I'm Scott Lightfoot. Nathan, back to you.
Thank you, Scott. Also tonight, anticipation is building as the playoff Battle of Ontario continues in just over an hour. A preview of Leafs versus Sens Game 2 coming up.
But first, we take a live look outside. Bright sunshine has been with us for much of the day. Nice mild temperatures to go along with it, and a beautiful shot right now of the waterfront this hour. Let's bring in Lindsay Morrison for a look at the current conditions and the specifics. Looks pretty fabulous.
It has been a pretty good day, Michelle. We started off with some cloud cover. That moved on out, and as you can see behind me, not much to show you on the satellite and radar. So enjoying a blue sky as we make our way into this evening. Now, it is still a little windy out there today. Those winds coming out of the west sustain near 30 kilometers per hour, gusting closer to 40K. We're going to tap into a bit more of a northwest wind tonight, and that will help cool us down a little bit. But right now it is 14 degrees, and under that sunshine, dare I say, perfect conditions for gathering outside at Maple Leaf Square for the Leafs game. Now, conditions will be a little bit cool overnight. We'll talk about that coming up in your forecast. For now, though, Michelle, back to you.
Lucky for those fans. Yes, we're live over Maple Leaf Square, where the Battle of Ontario is back on the ice tonight.
The Leafs looking to take a 2-0 series lead as they face the Ottawa Senators. Puck drops for Game 2 tonight. CTV Sean Lee Fong joins us live with the details. Can you hear me?
Nathan, I can barely hear you because I'm in the second best place in the city to be right now. Maple Leaf Square is live already, and we're almost an hour and a half until puck drop coming up at 7:30. The crowd is ready. The Leafs are up by 1, but this crowd wants 2.
In the sea of blue and white, with fans eagerly waiting for the start of Game 2, predictions are going one way.
Leafs are going to win.
Leafs are going to win.
Well, if you don't think that it's our year, you better pack your stuff up and get out of here, because it is. Leafs are going to go up 2-0.
After a solid 6-2 victory in Game 1, if the Leafs were to win tonight, they would go up 2-0 in a playoff series for the first time since 2002. Inside Scotiabank Arena this morning, the mood was calm as Leafs players are expecting a different type of game tonight.
Yeah, we know they're going to come hard.
But the team is looking for home ice to provide the same advantage.
Just hearing the crowd, seeing the towels, just the energy, I think that was the coolest thing.
Hopefully the rinks are rocking again like it was last game and able to give us some energy when we need.
For Ottawa, more players hit the ice this morning as the younger Senators are hoping to find their footing.
When you step on the ice for the first time in the playoff, whether or if you're 37 or 20, it doesn't matter. You're a little nervous, you're excited, there's a lot of emotions, you just got to be able to control those.
And while emotion took over the final moments of Game 1, Leafs coach Craig Berube says it was a nice introduction to the Battle of Ontario.
You know, I didn't really understand all of it, before. I watched it in the past, obviously, but, there's some hatred there for sure, and it's pretty good. I enjoy it.
So, guys, just when you think it couldn't get much louder in Maple Leaf Square, they've been giving out these cowbells, guys. Let's hear this. Everybody in the crowd seems to have these tonight, so it's going to be even louder than it's ever been inside. A lot of cowbells. all about. We're reporting live on Sean Leatham. Let it back inside.
Thank you, Sean. Well, 5 former members of Canada's World Junior Hockey team pleaded not guilty to sexual assault today. They submitted their pleas as jury selection began in a London courtroom. CTV's Adrian Gabriel reports.
One by one, 5 players of the 2018 gold medal winning World Junior Hockey team arrived flanked by their lawyers. Dylan Dubé, Cal Foote, Carter Hart, Michael McLeod and Alex Fermenton have each been charged with sexual assault. McLeod is also facing 1 charge of being party to the offense. Inside a courtroom, rows of 5 separate tables for each of the accused lined one side of the room. When asked to address the court, each stood and pleaded not guilty. Justice Maria Caracia then moved forward with selecting 14 jurors from a group of 200 sitting in a separate courtroom.
You know very little about the potential jurors. You know occupation, you know age, you know general area that they live in, but you don't know very much about them.
One person who will have their identity and credibility called into question by the defense is the alleged victim, who's expected to be called to the stand as early as this Friday.
A lot of times in these sexual assault cases, it comes down to the word and the testimony of the complainant.
The alleged group sexual assault took place inside this London, Ontario hotel in June of 2018 following a Hockey Canada gala. A lawsuit filed in April of 2022 states that the alleged female victim met a group of young men at a bar following the gala and had consensual sex with one of the players. She alleges that afterwards, 7 others entered the hotel room and, quote, directed, manipulated, and intimidated her into remaining in the room where she says she was sexually assaulted.
It's always difficult for the Crown to prove these cases because at the end of the day, it is proof beyond a reasonable doubt.
Today, we also heard a list of more than 40 names of potential witnesses. Some of those who could be taking the stand include members of that World Junior Hockey team who haven't been charged, some of which were playing in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Adrian Gabriel, CTV News, London, Ontario.
Closing arguments began in the trial of 2 people accused in the fatal shooting of an OPP officer. Constable Greg Perchala was shot in December 2022 while responding to a vehicle in a ditch west of Hagersville near Brantford. A jury is hearing the case against Randall McKenzie and Brandy Stewart Sperry. They're charged with first-degree murder. Both have pleaded not guilty.
To the federal election campaign, all parties have now released their costed platforms.
And the leaders have been throwing around some very big numbers. CTV's Colton Prale has the details.
Less than a week before Election Day, the Conservatives unveiled their party platform.
This is my plan for change. First, we will cut the Liberal deficit by 70%.
Headlined by $35 billion of new spending and $75 billion in tax cuts, Pierre Poilievre won't balance the budget, but is the only leader who says he can lower Canada's deficit from current projections. The Conservatives promising to bring it down to $14 billion in 4 years' time.
Canadians have been pinching their pennies long enough. It's time for government to start pinching pennies as well.
His opponents are skeptical. Mark Carney's plan includes more spending over 4 years and a much bigger deficit, but he says that's because he didn't include expected revenue like the Conservatives. Carney argues he would reach a surplus in 5 years if he did.
We are in a crisis, and in a crisis, you always plan for the worst. You don't hope for the best, and so you don't make those types of assumptions.
Economists criticized the accounting in both plans, saying neither the Liberals nor Conservatives use a baseline that properly takes tariffs into effect.
If you add in the tariff damage and if you took out these induced effects, all of them project pretty sizable deficits going forward and a maintenance of our high debt to GDP burden.
Meanwhile, the NDP say both parties aren't investing enough in people.
You know, both of them, I think, don't have the right priorities when it comes to spending that type of money on millionaires and then proposing massive cuts for you and your family. I think that's the wrong priority.
Singh's platform has the highest amount of new spending, but counters that with extensive revenue gains from taxes on wealthy people and businesses.
Colton Prale, CTV News, Ottawa.
Meanwhile, a record number of people cast their ballots in the advanced polls. Preliminary figures show more than 7.3 million Canadians voted during the long weekend between Friday and Monday. That represents about a quarter of all registered voters. The number was up 25% from early voting figures in the 2021 federal election, when 5.8 million people cast their ballots early.
And this was the last day Canadians could vote ahead of the April 28th election. They had until 6 p.m. to vote at an Elections Canada office in their riding. It was also the final day to apply to vote by mail on the Elections Canada website. Otherwise, ballots will have to be cast next Monday on Election Day.
And be sure to stay with CTV News next Monday night for results, analysis, and perspective from all across the country. Our election night coverage gets underway at 7 p.m. Eastern, led by Omar Sachedina and Vashi Capellos.
A new exhibit in Toronto is inviting people to deepen their understanding of a painful and violent day a year and a half ago.
It's a tribute to the people killed at the Nova Music Festival in Israel on October 7th of 2023. As CTV's Beth McTennell reports, survivor stories are at the forefront of this immersive experience.
The exhibit is a step inside the world of revelers at the Nova Music Festival. Attendees take in the spirit of the gathering and follow along as the dancing suddenly stops and the horror plays out.
Once the terrorists attacked and people were running away, they left their belongings behind, everything.
This is the recreated campground. Personal items abandoned alongside footage of survivors concealing themselves in bushes and portable toilets with bullet holes. Ophir Amir jumped in a car to escape. He and his friend were shot multiple times.
We were lying next to the car, my friend and me, and unfortunately 2 hours later I saw him taking his last breath and he died next to me.
During the attack, festival goers hid wherever they could to survive, including the bar area, even climbing into these fridges. The exhibit shows some of the burnt-out cars many used to get away, only to be confronted by terrorists along the road. Mikhail Ohana was also shot. She hid for 7 hours while 2 of her friends were taken hostage.
It's pain, and it's so deep. And because this, I'm here today to show the world what happened and to fighting every day to bring them home.
In all, from the festival, 43 people were taken into captivity and 412 were murdered, 4 of them Canadian. Their stories, too, are showcased at the exhibit. Survivors say sharing the installation is a testament to the strength and resilience of all those impacted by the attack.
There was so much hate and so much denial on social media everywhere in the world. And with this exhibition, we can educate, fight anti-Semitism, and tell our stories.
The exhibit in Toronto comes after runs in Tel Aviv, New York, LA, and Miami. It's on here until June 8th. All proceeds from tickets support Nova Music Festival survivors. Beth McTennell, CTV News.
Hawaii's most active volcano erupted today after another pause. This is the 18th episode at the Kilauea volcano since it blew its stack December 23rd. Lava began flowing shortly before 3:30 this morning local time and now covers more than 20% of the floor of the crater. The episodes in the ongoing eruption have been separated by pauses in activity.
In St. Louis, this large sinkhole closed a street to traffic. It is being linked to the city's aging sewer system. This collapse has prompted meetings in a number of departments as contractors and experts look into exactly what caused the sewer and the street to give way. It's not yet known how much it will cost to fix.
Coming up, it's rare, but it can happen. We take a closer look at breakthrough measles infections, instances where those who are vaccinated still get sick. Why experts insist this should not discourage anyone from getting their shots.
And I'm Pat Foran. Coming up on Consumer Alert, Christmas and the holidays were almost 4 months ago, yet some people are still having trouble cashing in gift cards they got as presents. Criminals continue to tamper with them, so when they're activated, they'll get the money. I'll have an update. That's just ahead.
Our temperature will fall overnight tonight to near 5 or 4 degrees. That is seasonal. And then tomorrow we're going to be at or slightly above in the afternoon. It's going to be a great day to spend some time outside and enjoy it because we're in for a bit more of an unsettled trend after that. We'll take a full look at your weather forecast coming up. And stay with us. We've got another full night of great shows for you right here on CTV.
Gift cards have become a billion-dollar business in Canada, and they remain a popular present, especially over the holiday season.
And most are given and received without any problems, but they remain a target for thieves, and it can be frustrating if you get an empty one. Pat Foran joins us with Consumer Alert. Pat.
Thanks, Nathan and Michelle. I received a gift card with a zero balance. The person who gave it to me was embarrassed, and it took 2 months of phone calls and emails to be reimbursed. If it happens to you, you're often caught in a loop with two sides blaming each other for the problem.
It's just been a complete runaround.
Danielle Vanier of Lakefield says this past Christmas, her father purchased gift cards for her and other members of her family. There were $300 worth of gift cards for Sephora and Home Depot. But when they went to use them, the cards were empty.
Upon using those gift cards, we've realized that none of them had a balance on them.
They were purchased at Shoppers Drug Mart, and Vanier says even though they had the receipts and the gift cards, she kept being bounced back and forth between Shoppers and the stores the gift cards were for.
To me, it feels like everyone's passing the buck and nobody wants to take responsibility and take the time to investigate this.
Criminals may go to a store, copy the card number and bar activation code, then reseal the package. They may also place fake barcode stickers on the cards. When the card is activated, money that's added goes to the scammer instead of the gift card holder.
You want to make sure that the card has not been tampered with in any kind of way.
The Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre says to protect yourself, examine gift cards before buying them. If it looks tampered with, don't buy it. Buy gift cards that are behind the counter or online and save your receipt in case there's a problem. Some companies are now enclosing higher value gift cards in a hard plastic case to avoid tampering.
We always advise to use a credit card to make the purchase for the gift card. So if anything does occur, you have that fraud protection to fall back on.
Vanier says after 4 months of trying, she just wants her family to be reimbursed.
It's not fair and it's unacceptable.
When CTV News reached out to Shoppers, a spokesperson for Loblaw said, gift card fraud is an issue impacting the retail sector as a whole. Our store teams are trained to recognize tampering and do their best to intercept suspicious transactions before purchase. Loblaw apologized and refunded Vanier's family $300 in Shoppers gift cards, which was good news for them.
Thank you so much, CTV. We are so happy now that we have been replaced for the gift cards. Couldn't have done it without you. Thank you.
And it's believed gift card fraud is underreported. Also, if you have gift cards, use them. It's estimated 40% of gift cards are never used. They're sitting in wallets and drawers, which is pure profit for retailers. On your side, I'm Pat Foran.
If you have a consumer story idea, email us at alert@ctv.ca.
All right, sunshine right now. I'm thinking if you're heading to Maple Leaf Square, we're probably already there. It might feel okay now, but it'll probably cool down at night. So, you know, dress appropriately.
It does make, I feel as though Leaf fans don't care really, whether it's, they'd be there if it was raining or even if it's snowing. So pretty good forecast, I would say, for tonight. And Lindsay, we kind of have a double up on this. Tomorrow we get much of the same.
We do. It is a little bit of a repeat for tomorrow, Michelle. And I think you're right, Nathan. It is going to get a little bit cooler, but I think a lot of people are rocking the jerseys, so they'll be nice and cozy. Right now, it is pretty cozy temperature-wise. 14 degrees in Toronto, 17 in Windsor, 10 in Ottawa, and single digits across northern Ontario. I do want to mention that our seasonal average daytime high at this point in April is 14 degrees. So we're bang on today, and you'll notice over the next couple of days here that we're pretty close to that as well. So nice little temperature trend. Worth mentioning, though, that it's going to be chilly overnight tonight in some areas. Check out Orillia, -2 degrees. -3 overnight for you in Peterborough tonight. That is cooler than normal, but then we anticipate a nice little rebound in temperature for tomorrow afternoon, especially the farther away from the lake you are. So, for example, 17 degrees for you in Guelph compared to 12 in Burlington, 18 for you in Aurora. But again, communities like Pickering and then over toward Oshawa going to be slightly cooler than that. Uxbridge, not bad. 17 is your forecast daytime high. Let's talk about the conditions. We have a beautiful blue sky right now. As we make our way into the night tonight, we might see a little bit of an increase in cloud cover as we roll past midnight. As far as any active weather is concerned, we're not really going to be dealing with that until perhaps late tomorrow night, and then there's an elevated chance as we make our way into the day on Thursday. Waking up tomorrow morning, so this is similar to what we experienced today. A little bit of cloud cover early on. We may have some footage of that we can show to you, but I'll let you know in just a moment. Early this morning, we had some cloud cover. We had a sunrise that was a little bit muted by those clouds, and you can expect that it will be similar tomorrow as well. As the day goes on, clearing, that's great news. Into the nighttime hours, slight chance of a passing shower, maybe a thunder shower, and then Thursday, let's pause this here to show you midday, unsettled, generally speaking, north of the GTA, and we could get a couple of passing showers as a result of that trough as well. Chance of showers into the day on Friday and also into Saturday, so becoming a little bit unsettled. No particular day is a washout. It's just one of those situations where you will want to keep the umbrella handy just in case. Look at the forecast high for Friday, 17 degrees. And then the weekend, a little bit of a cool down on Saturday, but we're back up on the warm side of seasonal for Sunday. And it looks as though we've got some pretty pleasant conditions into the early part of next week, too. Overall, not a bad looking 7-day. That's the weather for now. Nathan, over to you.
Thank you, Lindsay. Also tonight, the Force has arrived in Toronto, along with the stars of the Star Wars series. CTV News is on the red carpet at the premiere of Andor Season 2. Cases of measles in Ontario continue to climb.
Health officials say the vast majority are among unvaccinated people, but there is a tiny percentage of people who have been vaccinated. CTV's health reporter Pauline Chan has more on so-called breakthrough cases.
The latest numbers show Toronto steady at 2 cases of measles so far this year, with an additional exposure from a visitor to the city at Woodbine Mall's Fantasy Fair last month. But around the province, the numbers have been climbing.
There have been over 900 documented cases, and it's only April, whereas, for example, in all of 2024, there were 64 cases. So the outbreak is ongoing.
And in the U.S., numbers are also climbing, particularly in Texas. And while the vast majority of cases are in unvaccinated people, 3% have been found in people who had received 1 or both doses of the measles vaccine.
In medicine, just like in life, nothing is 100% effective 100% of the time. And there are a handful of cases of breakthrough infections in people who have received both doses of the measles vaccines.
Dr. Isaac Bogosh stresses it's an extremely rare occurrence, but it does happen, and with other vaccines as well, such as influenza or COVID.
And those who do have infections tend to have less severe infections thanks to the vaccine. But by no means do they prevent infection to nearly the same degree that, for example, a measles vaccine would prevent infection.
1 dose of the MMR vaccine is 93% effective at preventing measles. The second dose brings that to 97%. In Toronto, school suspensions began this month for students not in compliance with the Immunization of School Pupils Act, or ISPA. So far, 1,924 students born in 2008 have been suspended. That was the group most affected by the pandemic halting school vaccination programs. Students who do complete their immunizations can return to classes before the 20-day suspension is up, and more than half have been doing so. Toronto Public Health expects that by the end of the ISPA assessment process, vaccine compliance will exceed 90%, consistent with cohorts from previous years. Pauline Chan, CTV News.
The city is offering a funding boost for the Toronto Pride Festival after some U.S.-based companies cut their support for the event.
It is a way for us to show the confidence and give Pride Toronto the foundation to say, you're here, you're not going anywhere, we believe in you, go out there and get the partnership you need.
This is huge for us to have this grounding and foundational money over a 3-year period. Many of you know, because of what is happening in the USA, we lost $300,000. So this is helping us to be able to add some events back.
Pride funding is increasing by 26%. The mayor says 64 festivals across the city will receive grants totaling more than $2.5 million.
The Oscars is making a change aimed at addressing a long-standing concern that voters weren't watching all of the nominated films. The Academy of Motion Pictures, Arts and Sciences says members will now be required to view all nominated films in each category to be eligible to vote. Oscar voters had previously only been encouraged to watch all of the nominees and vote in categories they felt qualified in. The new rule is meant to prevent voters from skipping some movies and will apply to the next Oscars ceremony in 2026.
The latest installment in the Disney Star Wars universe hit the small screen today.
Andor tells the tale of how the Rebel Alliance is formed, one of the prequels to the original Star Wars film. CTV's Andrea Case was on the red carpet at TIFF Lightbox this evening.
Long before there was a Luke Skywalker in Star Wars, there was Andor, who was a thief who became a revolutionary and eventually joins the Rebel Alliance formed in opposition to the Galactic Empire. Luthen Rael is a member of the Rebel, played by Golden Globe and Critics' Choice winner, Swedish actor Stellan Skarsgård.
The first Star Wars film was 1976. I saw it together with Alexander, who's my oldest son. And I have 8 children now, and all of them have seen Star Wars. So I've spent 5 decades with Star Wars. But this is different. This is a lot more than before. It's a richer one. Whether you like it or not, it's up to you.
And you? Did you like it?
I like it.
Irish-born Australian actor Genevieve O'Reilly is Mon Mothma, a wealthy imperial who is secretly helping fund the Rebel Alliance and a rebel leader. She has a little bit of a rebel in herself.
I mean, I think there's a rebel in all of us. I think you and I are standing here right now, which kind of shines a light on the fact that we've probably been rebels in our lifetime. We each carry our dreams in our pockets, and to step into that, to make that happen in whatever way it is for anybody, I think you have to invest in a bit of a rebel.
The first 3 episodes of Andor are now available on Disney+, with new episodes dropping every week until May 13th. Andrea Case, CTV News.
After the break, residents of an Ajax apartment building take their fight to City Hall to prevent the demolition of their homes and claim the property has special historic value. We have the details.
Looking at the circumstances, Mike, as to why the officers drew their firearms.
Updating our top stories, a 16-year-old Toronto boy shot by police in an exchange of gunfire Sunday night has died in hospital. The Special Investigation Unit will try to determine if the use of force by police was justified. There were 6 people in the vehicle that was pulled over for a missing license plate.
Not every trip is bikeable, and not every person is going to choose to ride a bike. But if you have a network of safe and protected bike lanes, like the bike lanes on Bloor University and Yonge Street, that gives people more transportation options to get around.
The removal of bike lanes on 3 major Toronto streets has been paused. A judge has granted an injunction. The province wants the lanes removed to fight traffic gridlock. Cyclists say that would be dangerous without reducing congestion.
After more than 20 years knowing him as a friend, to know now he's no longer a friend on earth, he's a friend in heaven.
A funeral will be held for Pope Francis in St. Peter's Square on Saturday. A public viewing will begin tomorrow in St. Peter's Basilica. Today, a special mass was held to pray for the late pontiff at Toronto's St. Michael's Cathedral Basilica. It was presided over by the Archbishop of Toronto.
Remember to keep up to date day and night at ctvnewstoronto.ca by downloading the CTV News app.
On the markets, the Canadian dollar was up just a fraction to 72.31. Western Canadian Select Oil was down $1.67 to close at 51.84. And the TSX shot up almost 300 points, ending the day at 24,305.98.
The Business Report is brought to you by Canadian Western Bank, the bank built for business.
The final Canada Carbon rebate payments are landing in bank accounts. The rebate is Ottawa's way of returning proceeds from the federal charge that applied to fossil fuels and combustible waste as part of former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's signature climate policy. Canadians who filed their 2024 income tax return by April 2nd will receive their CCR payments starting today. Those who filed after will get their money after their returns are assessed. This will be the last rebate payment as consumer carbon pricing has now ended.
We turn to the ongoing fight to save an Ajax apartment building from the wrecking ball.
The residents facing eviction took their fight to City Hall today. CTV's Allison Hurst has the latest.
This is my son's growth chart.
Christy Bentley's son Alex has grown up here.
We moved here to get out of an abusive relationship and to think about losing it, and I don't know where we're going to live if this goes through.
Their two-bedroom apartment affordable at $1,100 a month on her single-parent income.
I don't get child support. It's just my income. That's all I have. So this is what I can afford.
Building management plans to redevelop it into a 25-story high-rise, effectively evicting the tenants in the roughly 30 units.
Right through this way is into our kitchen.
Tyler Hunting and his wife moved into this one almost a year ago. Before that, they lived in another unit with his mother-in-law.
My wife and I have been saving for a house for 10 years, and with how much the housing prices around here are, nothing is really affordable.
So he's appealing to City Council for heritage designation because these buildings predate the town and he says are a centerpiece of Ajax history.
We want the town to take it to the committee to do their own investigation and get public input because that's what the process calls for.
According to the developer's heritage impact statement, the subject property meets criterion number 4, but the subject property has not met the minimum of 2 criteria required. The city's bylaw from 2022 only mentions needing 1 or more, but in 2023, the province's updated Ontario Heritage Act came into effect saying a property must meet 2 out of the 9.
The Red Bricks were the first planned community in Ajax before Ajax was even incorporated as a town.
In his appeal, he asked them to involve the Heritage Advisory Committee.
I'm pretty sure they have. The Heritage Advisory Committee has already looked at this and passed on it being or requesting it be a heritage site.
They don't really seem keen on sending it to the Heritage Council. We'll see what the property and development team has to say, but it's certainly not the answers that we're looking for today.
The new building will have 10% affordable units, and the town and developer will help tenants find housing.
They've sat down a number of times so far with the owners of the property who are planning the redevelopment and kind of working through some negotiation pieces to see what can be done.
The developers say in part to CTV News, Brosco is committed to proactively communicating with the building's existing tenants to advise on the evolving development timeline. Since the proposal is waiting on some approvals, Bentley's son asks
to please not destroy our home because it has some grandparents and some single moms.
A meeting is being held with the tenants, developer, and town on May 1st. Allison Hurst, CTV News.
Just ahead, our big wondrous planets in the spotlight. Local students celebrate Earth Day, joining in on efforts around the world to protect our home.
Tonight, 5 former Canadian junior hockey players face a judge.
It's always difficult for the Crown to prove these cases.
The disturbing allegations and when their accuser could take the stand. That's later on CTV National News.
Now more than ever, Canadians need to know where our leaders stand. CTV News keeps you informed on the issues that hit home. This election, connect to Canada's most trusted news source, CTV News, now more than ever.
This is Earth Day, an annual celebration that sees people around the world take action to protect our planet and the environment.
And that is exactly what more than 300 students in Richmond Hill did today as they worked to make a difference right here in the GTA. They were at David Dunlap Observatory Park, planting 450 native trees and shrubs. The elementary students were working to build up to 8 hectares of new tree canopy and improve biodiversity. The trees will also help provide a habitat for local wildlife. Organizers say today was part of an effort to help grow the urban forest.
We're trying to build the urban tree canopy to improve the local environment, to build the urban tree canopy, improve biodiversity. The trees and shrubs that are here today are native species, so they are adapted to the local environment.
What a great way to spend the day. Richmond Hill is recognized as a Tree City of the World by the Arbor Day Foundation and the UN's Food and Agriculture Organization. Since 1998, volunteers have helped plant about 280,000 trees and shrubs in the city's parks and natural areas. There is also the Clean Toronto Together program, where people set their own hours and pick up garbage in the locations of their choosing.
You know, we had good weather to celebrate Earth Day.
So good.
I know it's easy to celebrate our planet Earth when we have a beautiful evening like this. And temperature-wise, we're equally comfortable at Pearson Airport and by the water. Over the next couple of days, you'll likely hear me talking about it being cooler by the lake. Not so much right now. 15 degrees at the Toronto Islands and 14 at Pearson Airport. Now, waking up tomorrow morning, it is going to be a little bit cool. You might find yourself reaching for the winter jacket once again. I wouldn't blame you. Here's the thing. You can likely shed it in the afternoon. 16 is our forecast high. Again, that's mainly for Pearson Airport, away from the water. Closer to about 10 degrees for the high tomorrow by Lake Ontario shoreline. And then we're fairly seasonal the rest of the week. Michelle and Nathan.
Thanks, Lindsay. That's it for us, but be sure to join Todd Vanderhayden tonight at 11 for CTV National News, followed by Natalie Johnson with our next local newscast at 11:30.
In the meantime, our coverage continues anytime on CP24 and at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Lindsay Morrison and the whole team here at CTV News, thanks for watching and have a great night.